Thanks for joining us on our webinar, Empowering Your Services Team, Unleashing the Potential of Professional Services Automation on Salesforce. I'm Penny Thomas. I'm a PSA consultant with Xenogenix, and I'm joined by Amit Aydin, the Operations Director at Riversafe, and by Andy Campbell from Certinia. So Xenogenix was founded in 2002 as a business process improvement consultancy. We've been a Salesforce partner for 16 years, and we've been a Certinia partner since 2019. We work with Certinia's clients to implement and manage Certinia products like PSA and to help them get the best out of their systems. So we want to look first of all at why Professional Services Cloud or PSA on Salesforce. We can look at a few of the challenges facing the business. So some typical challenges that we might have are around systems. Often companies have very different and disjointed systems for sales, resourcing, project management, time and expenses. They want a single system to manage their clients and their opportunities and deliver projects on. They're using spreadsheets to keep track of their resource management, and they might be using something like MS Project to deliver their projects, and then another system again for doing their time tracking. They want smooth project onboarding, sales to services handoff, so making sure that all the pre-sales information's there. It's a seamless handoff. The customer's not repeating themselves, giving information to the service team they've already given to sales. And they want to have a shared view of the opportunity pipeline and automated opportunity to project management. For project management, they want to have an appropriate way to deliver their projects, keep their projects on task, keep their budgets in line, keep the stakeholders involved, see what's happening across your whole service practice. You've got your project status, your resource demand, customer interactions, risks, issues, your RAID log, all that sort of thing. And then they also want to have resource management. So they want an easy way of managing their resources, flexible view of the resources and their activities. They want to manage their skills, both like at an individual level, which resources have which skills, and at a higher level, what's your skills capacity across your whole org? Where do you have gaps? Where do you have a lot of people with skills, actually not much work for them? So they want that high level view of the capacity. And finally, they want the reporting. So they want revenue reporting, revenue forecasting, services forecasting, specific project reporting like project burn up. They want estimated revenue versus actual across the whole org as well as at project level, and dashboards. And they want to have customizable reports. So reports out of the box that are a great start, but then can be customized as you want and can be automated. You can set them to send at a particular time or a particular date to whoever you want them to send them to. So we're going to jump briefly into a PSA org to have a quick demo of what it looks like. It's on the Salesforce platform, so it will look familiar if you're familiar with Salesforce. The first thing we're going to look at is a services executive workspace. So workspaces have been set up for different roles within an organization, like services executive or a resource manager or an individual consultant or a project manager. Each of them looks a little bit different. And the idea is that it brings front and center what is important to that person. So for this services exec one, for example, has project revenue forecast. It has forecast by period, project profitability. It's got very high level view across the whole org of things like the work planner, what's coming up in the next few weeks, and revenue by resource. And then like a little dashboard embedded in the workspace of resource availability. And you can see this one's done by the role type, so business analyst, consultant, project manager, etc. So you can see there's a sum of available full-time equivalents. What is the resource availability here? So very high level, but it's not just a dashboard. There's links here to things that are useful to somebody in the exec level. We've got services overview, revenue forecast, capacity and demand planning forecast. So these are all Einstein analytics. So a little bit more than a dashboard. It's very interactive. And you can click straight through from here, but I've already opened it. So for example, this one being a services overview, a PSA overview, you can change it. For example, if you wanted to look at bill rate on an hourly basis rather than daily, you can do it from a touch of a button. So rather than having to open up a report, edit it and save it, you can just change that view right from within this dashboard. Same with backlog, utilization, billing, capacity, it's all here. And all available for you. From a CRM analytics dashboard, I've got this one set to PSA capacity, but you could look at backlog or billings, capacity and demand planning if you wanted to look at it by, by skills, or indeed a project burn up if you wanted to look at a specific project. This one, again, I've got this set by region, so I can see my capacity, remaining capacity and schedule capacity set by region. But if I wanted to do that by practice, so perhaps looking at by industry or by horizontal, we can do that and change which view, whatever view is appropriate for your org, we could change it to look at. The filters down the right-hand side of here, you can see, you can change at the touch of a button, you can change the time period type from quarter to month, and it will change this, this report here, so see capacity by month, and then we've got capacity by individual. So all sorts of great analytics available without having to build very much. And then services revenue, I touched on in the introduction. So you've got your revenue forecasting overview. This is looking at a live version of forecast, but you can look at previous versions that you've taken a snapshot of. You can see this revenue actual forecast. Again, we can change everything that we want to look at here. And we can drill down into this and see what's behind those figures there. And we can compare side by side a live version compared to a previous version of the forecast. So there's a lot of the analytics there for the services level. Drilling down into a more detailed look at an opportunity. So what people want is to be able to create an opportunity, have all that detail, and then turn that into a project without having to repeat that data into another system. So we've got a typical services opportunity here from Salesforce, stage, proposal, price, quote. But we've already here, within the opportunity, got some information. I can see that I'm going to need a business analyst for 72 hours at this cost rate. I've got consultant and a project manager already in here. Before I've even sold the opportunity, I can see that this is what I'm going to need to deliver it. And I can see my services product here. So where's this information coming from? Well, we've got a resource plan. So before I've even sold the opportunity, I can create a resource request from it to say, I'm going to need this type of resource, a consultant for 264 hours. And more than that, I can specify what region I want them to be from, ideally. I can specify what skills I want them to have and what level of that skill, any particular certifications they need to hold. I can request that straight from here. And then as the resource manager, I can see this resource request. It's one of the ones from that opportunity. I can see the details from it on one tab, and all these filters have been preset to show the skills that were requested, the region that I'd requested, and the start and end date. And then it will show me, without me having to do any more work, who's available that matches those criteria. I can ask it to recommend resources, or I can untick that and choose myself from resources that fit those criteria. And then I can do a side-by-side comparison between, Peter and Lisa and Matteo and all these people, and it will show me side by side who is the best fit regarding their skills and their availability. I'm not going to do that just now, but I can also, from that view, then assign a resource directly, or I can assign them directly once the project's closed, or I can hold them against that opportunity. So we're not creating the assignment yet, but we're just putting a placeholder on it saying, if this opportunity closes, Lisa, for example, will be the person that we're going to put on this work. And then to be able to see all of those resources in one, I'm going to look at a resource planner. So as a resource manager, I can see all of my resources in one place. We've got a red, amber, green coding going on here, where green would be sort of ideally utilized according to each resource's own work pattern. Amber would mean that they've got some availability, they're underutilized, and red would be overutilized. And you can set what those parameters are, what counts as green, what counts as red. You can filter it. So if you only wanted to see, for example, United Kingdom resources, as I've done here, or you can say only resources with availability over a certain percentage, or only project managers, or any other way that you want to manage your resources. You can see all of them in one place. And then again, as a resource manager, I can see all my capacity and demand. I can see dashboards. So I can see resources by skill, I can see the number of consultants by skill, average score by skill. You can decide what those scores mean to you. And resource requests by skill. So I can see, you know, for certified project management professional, I've got 31 resource requests have been raised. So really useful information right at the touch of a button that you can see across your entire org. Then you can create the project directly from the opportunity. You can bring in information like your budget from the opportunity. You bring those resource requests straight across, so or create new ones from the project. It all carries across, and it's all automated from the project, from the opportunity to the project where you can manage it. Again, if I want to see, as a project manager, I want to see a view of all of my projects, I've got that available to me as well. So this is all of the projects. Within each, you can see all of the assignments. So each of these assignments would be a resource in there. And I can see sort of start and end date and what hours, and I can actually edit it right from within here by clicking on it, or by clicking on the assignment here. I can open it up and change what hours have been assigned directly from the planner. If I drill into a particular project, one that's up and running, right from here, I've got a summary. So again, front and center, without having to drill into lots of things to get that detail, I can see what are the planned hours on this project, what are the actual hours, what's actually being booked in time cards, what are my bookings, so as in what's basically the sum of all the budgets on the project, the expected revenue, what are the billings, what have we actually billed, and the costs and margins on here. And I can also open a Gantt chart. I can see a project plan. I can see all of my milestones, whether those are billing milestones, for example, a fixed price project, or whether those are just deliverable milestones. I can see my risks, issues, versions of the project. So you've got the ability to create a baseline version and then future versions as you go through the project lifecycle and compare those side by side. Any project tasks we can look at from within here, as well as seeing them from the Gantt. And up, so this is again some Einstein analytics on a particular project. So you can see this project, you can see the billings versus the hours. You can quickly change that. You can look at project trends. So, you know, planned hours versus predicted hours, with some confidence intervals in there as well, and things like the hours distribution. So project burn-up reports available on a per project basis. So all I would need to do is change the project there to look at a different one. So there's some great reporting available from within the projects themselves in PSA, as well as sort of high-level reporting across your whole org. So you can see all of your capacity by skills, or by region, or by practice. And then finally, for example, a consultant or one of the resources on these projects, I've got a very different requirement, what I need from out of PSA. And I'm not bothered by the capacity planning or the resource planning. What I want to know is, where do I put my time? Where do I put my expenses? Have I reached my personal utilization target? What's my work plan look like? I can manage my skills and certifications from this workspace. I can see if I've got missing time cards, for example, I haven't put in time for last week. If I've got rejected time card that I need to, it's gone through an approval process, it's been rejected, I need to look at that and resubmit it. Or expense reports, whether those have been rejected or approved. And I can see things like I've got certifications, I can put the date on the certification, I can say where it's going to expire, and it will remind me here to retake that certification or update it or whatever is required. And I can do my time entry direct from here and see my work. So all sorts of things relevant to the end user, the consultant, rather than management, what they need to see and what's important to them right at the touch of a button, as well as being able to do things like submitting expenses or time cards on my mobile. I can do it from this workspace here. So that's a very brief overview overview of professional services automation. I'd now like to hand over to Amit Aden, who's just going to give us a summary of a recent implementation that we did for Riversafe and the challenges that faced them and how that went.
Thank you, Penny. My name's Amit Aden. I'm the Operations Director at Riversafe. Just a little bit of background on Riversafe. It's a It's a business of 15 years, and they have we have cybersecurity at the heart of what we do, and we also provide services in DevOps. We're a business of around 100 people. That's split between contractors and permanent professional services team, and then a small team that sort of manage the business and do the sales part of the activities. So when I joined about a year ago, we had little to no systems managing any of the projects, Excel all the way, very difficult to find information, get reports, rely on finance. So it became very obvious we needed something. So I did a bit of research and obviously came across Certinia, its previous brand, and had a fantastic account manager, and was recommended Xenogenix to go through an implementation. And my key team, so the service delivery team, are the main users of this platform. They had nothing to use at that time, so they were very excited about receiving such a system. We were actually lucky enough that we were adopting a CRM as well, so the decision was easy. I'm from a CRM Salesforce background, having used it in a previous business as well, so that was quite straightforward. And then it was very good to see that there's a system built on the CRM platform that we wanted. And the key decision there was that we wanted something where sales could hand off easy to service delivery, the key drivers, and that's become very evident in the implementation that we have here. So the team are really, really happy. We went through a very thorough implementation process with Xenogenix on 2 projects, obviously the CRM first. The harder one was PSA, but it's well worth it. You can see the activity that we put into that, the time that we put into it, covers off all of the areas that we had pain points. Penny's just covered quite a lot of that, but we had difficulty understanding our team, where they are, what they need to do, embedding their training in between their sort of dead time between projects, ensuring that the holidays are captured and the resources are managed very well, them doing their time cards and expenses, so that's all in the system already. One of the biggest pain points in the previous system, which really wasn't fit for purpose, which PSA does really well, is being able to see the whole resource team across multiple weeks. That was really nice to see, because we could only view it a week at a time, but now you can sort of look a month ahead and really pinpoint where the gaps are and be able to plan ahead. So it's really, really useful. We needed a good way to manage the steps of the project, and this really helped. The team focus on what they need to do next and ensure that the quality to our clients are always, the best that we can deliver them, which is an important part of our business and our ethos. And then from my side of things and the exec side is sort of understanding what's happening on utilization. Utilization was done on Excel. The team had to update it before our 2 weekly meeting, but now it's very easy. Just be able to pull that information off PSA and discuss where the challenges are and what we need to do. So really, really straightforward. And then for people like myself, we need to know how our revenue is, where the pain points are going to be, and what the costs are to the business. So as Penny demonstrated there, we've got a very, very easy way to pull that information. We have, as any business like us, have challenges, not just getting in our time cards and getting everything approved, but transforming those and chasing them up. So that's become easy through the service delivery team, but that obviously translates into being able to bill our clients easily as well. So all of the billing events that you can create easily in PSA Finance are very, really happy as well. So I think multiple parts of the business have had a bit less of a workload, if you like, with this new implementation. So everybody's happy on our side. The other thing to mention with any of these platforms is the customization that was required from Riversafe's side. So Xenogenix were very, very happy to listen to what our needs were. Out of the box implementation was very established, because it's done, but there was some customization that was necessary just because of the way that we work. I can probably think of 2 or 3 of those, And the team made it very easy to listen to what that was and come up with solutions and get those working with the out-of-the-box package that we had decided to invest in. So that's making the system work even better for us. So we've transformed as a business and are firing on all 4 cylinders when it comes to processes. I would say so. Very happy from my side of things.
So what was...
I'm happy to answer any questions.
What would you say was a good lesson from the implementation process?
Oh, a good lesson. Allow lots of time. Allow lots of time. And I think the most important thing, it's a big investment, not just in the cost in terms of the platform and the licensing, but also your team's time in order to get it right. So you're only going to get what you put in. So, you need to dedicate a resource or two. I was the executive sponsor for the whole implementation. I did get involved with as well, but my team, who are more close to the processes and the working of the business, had to give up their time. So you've got to plan ahead for that and allow people to guide your implementation partner well. Otherwise, you won't get what you need, and you'll just end up with you'll be scratching your heads.
Is there one thing you would do differently if you were to do this again, or?
That's a very good question.
Go on holiday for the whole time?
Yeah, not getting involved. I think the other part I would say is consider your data import. If you're a business who is just adopting this and you've got very little information to import into it, you don't have to worry too much. But if you're using an existing system or have some data that you're working with now, you really need to think about that, because that actually, in our case, held up the project a little bit of time, just being able to sort of go live and launch and get the team using it. So I would definitely include more effort from my team as well as my implementation partner to look at the data and make sure it's ready to be imported when the production environment's ready.
Yeah, you need to get the data out before you can put it in. So.
Transform it. There's lots to do on it, yes. But yeah, the pain's over. We're happy now.
We're joined by Andy from Certinia as well. So how would you say Amit's experience reflects your experience with other customers?
It's surprisingly similar. Surprisingly similar. I mean, if you think about growing organizations, I mean, Riversafe's got 100 or so employees. Think about organizations that are growing, that are getting bigger. And it's very typical. You start off by running an organization on Excel. You then get to a stage where you're thinking, oh, it's starting to creak. Will we still be using this technology in 3 years' time? No.
Sure.
Does it enable us to, are we starting to creak? Can I see the forecast? I mean, Amit was talking about planning information, about thinking about capacity moving forward. You can't do that with spreadsheets. And Amit and his team are sitting around the boardroom table. They want to focus on how they can drive their business forward. They don't want to spend all their time thinking about, does the technology work? Where do I get that from? Where that number's different from that number. How does that work? I mean, that's just crazy. And if you could start again, you would probably design things with a blank sheet of paper, and you'd say, right, I want everything about my customers and everything about my operations and everything all about my finance stuff, all just in one place. I mean, that just makes more sense, because I don't get links between different systems and data dropping down the middle, and it means I can rely upon the data because it all comes from one place. So very, very typical. The Riversafe story is very typical of a lot of organizations in the growth space.
Thanks, Andy. If there are any questions from those watching the webinar, you can put them in the comments, and we will try and address those for you. In the meantime, I have to ask Andy, why did Financial Force change their name, and why Certinia?
Yeah, good question. People will probably know we used to be called Financial Force, and we started about 2009. And at the time, Financial Force was a great name because we were the first ERP on the Salesforce platform. So you take finance and force, and you put them together, you get Financial Force, which kind of worked. However, over the past 15 years or so, the organization's changed hugely. We're now much more known for our professional services automation, PSA tools that Amit's been talking about. We recently brought out a whole raft of new products around service CPQ, financial planning, customer success, and frankly, there's been a bit of a focus much more on what we need to run a services business than just accounting. It's the kind of things that keeps Amit awake at night, utilization rates, revenue recognition, billing, all those kind of things. And so we've moved away from just having an ERP platform to have a platform for a services business. And Certinia is a much better. Certinia, the word is derived from certain. And the idea is if you've got seamless processes, you've got good quality data, then it means that Amit can deliver with certainty to his customers. And we felt, Certinia is a better name than Financial Force for the organisation that we are now.
Yeah, we'll get used to it.
We'll get used to it eventually. I'll still make mistakes. A lot of people.
Good to know. And when you're working with partners like Xenogenix, what sort of criteria or measurements do Certinia use to get the right fit with the right partner?
Yeah, interesting perspective. I mean, it very much depends upon the implementation, and it depends on what it is that you're looking for. So, for example, if you're a 10,000 employee organization, your demands on your implementation partner will be completely different than if you're a growth organization. What are your Salesforce skills? What industry expertise do you need? There's lots of things that you need to think about, and we work closely with customers and with partners to make sure you get the right fit. The reason that's more important is because Amit and Riversafe's relationship with Xenogenix is a more protracted one. You have feet on the ground, or in these days of remote implementations, but you have much greater proximity. You need to demonstrate as a partner, you need to demonstrate that you understand what Riversafe are doing. You do lots of implementations. You need to be able to say to Amit, actually, I'm not quite sure that's the right thing to do, Amit. You ought to think about X, Y, Z. And in order to do that, you need to have some trust between both parties.
Sure.
And so expertise, skills, size, industry knowledge, etc. is really good. But most importantly, you've got to feel, I'm going to be working with this organization a lot. Are they going to be a good partner for me? Can I, do I want to take Penny down a pub and have a chat with her and say, look, we want to do this. We want to do this. How are we going to? You've got to work with those people closely. So you need to get that connection, that cultural connect is the most important one.
Sure. Thanks, Andy. And we've got one question from the viewers online for Amit. If you had to do your implementation again, what would you do better or differently?
Yeah. Thanks, Adam, for the question. I feel like when we went through the whole project, it was thorough, and I couldn't have asked for it to turn out a bit better. I think the timing was, having a bit of foresight to make slightly better plans so that we delivered it a little bit sooner. But if I had to do something better, it would just make a slightly better plan, like I mentioned on the data, and also stressing, which I'll do here, the amount of effort that needs to go into the PSA setup. It's nothing straightforward in terms of, it's not a simple few pages. It's quite a complicated setup, but it's worth it in the end. So if I had to do something better, is just dedicate a lot more time to getting that bit done sooner, so that Penny's team would be able to, because what you'll experience, like implementation partner like Penny's and Xenogenix, they do this all the time. They're very familiar with the system. So I had no concerns, or I didn't worry that Penny's not going to be able to deliver what I needed to. It was actually, I was the hold up on some of the occasions. So I would plan for that, but not knowing that whole implementation cycle and what to expect, I think was part of the inexperience on my team's part. So, but it's all good. Look, it's well worth it. It's a fantastic product, and my team, they're raving. They're very, very happy. I hope that answers your question, Adam.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Amit and Andy. We're going to wrap it up there, but each attendee is also going to have the option to receive a free 30-minute resourcing health check and see how you stack up against the industry norm and give you guidance on what strategy changes you should make. So we will be in touch with everybody who's joined this LinkedIn Live today to offer that to you. Thanks very much for your time today. Thanks, Amit and Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.